G'day, I'm Adam Hooley and I'm from LPME, and welcome to my presentation on the framework of a high-performing team. Just a little bit about me to start with. I've been in the industry for about 17 years and I've worked with smaller startup businesses. I've also worked with very large businesses with thousands of properties, primarily in operations and business management roles. I now work as a consultant into the industry, helping businesses understand their friction points and solving problems through strategic planning and the science that goes with that. I also have a master's in business administration, and my specialist, as I just discussed, is around strategic planning, growth, team performance, and capability mapping, really understanding what the business capabilities are and leveraging off those to solve your problems. What we're going to discuss over the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about a why. Why do we want to solve the problem of having a high-performing team? What benefits do we get out of that? So we're going to look at that quickly. We're going to look at some data that supports what happens when you do have an underperforming team and how that affects your business. So we're going to run through that and have a quick look at that. We're then going to talk about team structure, and we're going to walk through a case study that I worked with in a business in Sydney in Australia, and just show you how they did that team structure, changed into that team structure. And then right at the end, we're just going to look at what you can do today, what you can take away from today and implement into your business. So let's look at the why. So I've split it up into three different areas here. So I've got the team and the customer and the business, and some of these overlap a little bit. But what we're finding with the team is that a high-performing team is better engaged with your business, and the performance obviously is a byproduct of that. They now have a career path. So with this type of framework that we're talking about, which we will go through as part of the case study, is that they have a career progression plan. It's all about learning, developing your skills, and becoming better at what you're doing. And also in high-performing teams, what you find is the culture is aligned. So people are all working towards the one goal. So what happens is your business becomes a lot more efficient. You then promote, and I've got down the bottom there, you then promote staff longevity with the business. So you're reducing staff churn because staff don't have to go elsewhere looking for a better job. They have a great job here and they have a career plan in place, and you're supporting them with that. So the second one is we have a look at the customer. The byproduct of having a high-performing team is they're obviously offering a much more improved service to your owner, and that becomes a lot more transparent as well, where property managers' systems and their procedures are all pro-owner or pro-client. So that becomes a lot more transparent. These clients then become promoters of your business. Okay, so they're actually talking to other people about your business, which is obviously helping you with customer retention down the bottom there. Not only customer retention, but also there'll be growth, which is what we talk about in the next session around business. So it increases your growth through referrals. If you've got promoters in the business, your customers that are promoters in the business, then what you're doing is you're going to get growth out of the business through that, whether it be other properties that they manage, because we know that a lot of our landlords have other properties that we don't manage, or whether it's through friends and families and their own personal networks that we're getting those referrals. You're looking at an increased profit into the business. You're finding that high-performing team have an efficiency rate. Now, that varies between businesses, but you could be talking as much as 20% increase efficiency in your business, which means that your team can probably actually manage more properties, and that's going to increase your profitability. Things like not having your clients churning and not having your staff churning, obviously that is going to increase your profitability as well. You become a business of choice for both your clients and your team members. No longer do you have to go out recruiting people from websites and recruiters and things like that. People are actually knocking on your door. People know that you are the business to work for. You become a business of choice. And the clients go through exactly the same. They understand that you're the local business of choice in the area and they want to deal with you. Now, the byproduct of that is that business can now start focusing on goals and achieving the goals that you want to achieve as a business. It's not just about reactively working on the everyday. So let's skip through into the data. So this is some data that we've collected. We run an insights module, a data program, which connects to the Office's trust accounting softwares. And what we've done is we've managed to pull data out around staff churn just to support what we're talking about today. So what I've got here is I've got 4 different scenarios. And this first one is actually if a staff member left, this is a portfolio that isn't directly affected by that particular staff member leaving. So it's another property manager in the business. But you can see that there is a decline in management over time. Okay, so there is an effect actually that this property manager is probably having to step up and cover the other property manager because they're underperforming and things like that, and that's having a dramatic effect across the business. What we've done here is introduced a second line, which is where another portfolio, which actually did have a change of property manager itself in the past, but now is also an adjacent to the property manager that's just leaving. So as we're going through, we'll describe this graph a little bit better. So the middle line, you'll see if you're looking down the bottom on the horizontal, it starts at 0 in the middle there, and then it goes to the left and to the right, 12 weeks. So what we're saying is that managements will actually start declining before the property manager ever leaves. And they'll continue to decline after they leave. So it's actually a long-term process that's going on here. And you'll see up the left-hand side, it's the average percent of loss in a portfolio. So we're talking, we're over already 10% in scenario 2. Now, again, this is not the portfolio that the property manager left. We're plotting data on adjacent portfolios in your business. That's other property managers in the business. Let's have a look at line number 3. Now, line number 3 is actually if the PM left with a warm handover. So this will be a scenario perhaps where the PM's not happy and they've given notice and you have a bit of a handover. But you can see that in our graph, 3 months before, there are already managements losing. And then well after the property manager leaves. And this stops at 12 weeks after the property manager. But you can see that line has got a significant downturn to it and it continues on for months afterwards. So let's look at the actual PM that leaves with a cold handover. So this would probably be the instance where perhaps they were terminated and they were finished up on the spot. And there's no handover with the other staff members. So what you're seeing this huge decline in properties. And this is a bit of a myth. A lot of businesses that we have worked with, and I particularly have worked with over the past, truly actually believe that their staff churn doesn't have that much effect on their business as far as numbers and clients. But this data is 120,000 properties in this data, which is telling us otherwise. And we've been able to authenticate this with some of the offices that we've been working with. So this one here, line 4, you'll see it spears down for months prior that the managements are dropping out of this portfolio. And you see a plateau there. Now, there's a few reasons why that could be. It could be that, the actual owners or the landlords in this portfolio have gone, finally, our property manager's gone and we're going to get a decent one, and they hang on. But then what happens over a period of time, nothing really improves because you've got this cold handover and you've got a new property manager that either hasn't started yet or they're really struggling to keep up with working into the portfolio and starting to learn all the new clients and things that are going on there. So I wanted to show you that out of a bit of interest because there is many people in this room that probably don't really understand the true effect that losing a property manager from your business has, not just in the particular portfolio that you've lost the property manager, but also in adjacent portfolios next to them. So this is what happened. These are the conclusions from the data that we come up with. The staff turnover is one of the biggest drivers of loss management, and I hope I've been able to demonstrate that to you today. Staff turnover affects the whole business, and the effects are felt for at least a year. So that map, that chart that I showed you was only 6 months, but you can see those lines didn't look like they were easing off. So what we're saying is that the effects of turning over one team member can actually have an effect on your business for up to a year. Now, if you're turning over multiple staff every year, you can imagine what sort of effect that's having on your business. Righto, so let's move into the team structure. So we're going to move into the actual team structure that I'm going to run through the case study with. And that's the squad structure on the far right there. So it's about having multiple people in a squad working on the same group of properties. So traditionally, there's portfolio and task. And I know from conversations that I've had with people around here in the last few days is that portfolio and task is an issue of contention here as well as it is in Australia. And what we're finding is that the portfolio is where one property manager looks after a group of properties. Now, the structure can be slightly different where they may have a leasing consultant as well, or they may have a maintenance officer or an assistant or something like that. But generally, one person is defined to looking after a portfolio. Task-based is where you actually cut the portfolio in separate silos. So one person might look after lease renewals, one person might look after maintenance, one person might look after routine inspections. And what you're doing is you're cutting the portfolio into silos, and it makes it very difficult for team members to kind of learn new roles because they're siloed. It also makes it very difficult for your owners because they have multiple contacts. Now, I have worked with some offices that have done this very well. However, it is probably the hardest one to do. It takes a lot of work. And then we've got squad, which is what we're going to walk through today. I'm going to talk more about the squad structure and how we can move into the squad structure. But let's talk about the benefits of having a squad structure. So this is the squad structure that I'm going to pitch to you today. So what we have at the top is we have a property manager executive. And that property manager executive is a very much a senior person that has a lot of knowledge about the industry. But also, they're not just a property manager. They also have leadership qualities. So they're going to mentor and train team members that sit below them. And they're accountable to the portfolio. The property manager is the heavy lifter. So they're the one that has good, solid knowledge about property management. And they're the hard worker, and they do most of the heavy lifting within the portfolio. And then underneath it, you've got the property associate. Now, these are entry-level roles, assistant-type roles, if you like. But the key with this structure is that everyone works on the same task. So if you think about, a tradesperson, for example, where, as a new tradesperson, you do all the crappy tasks, and that's more about orientating into the business, starting to learn what the job's all about and things like that. And that's sort of where a property associate sits. The property manager, they do more of their, a little bit more experience, and they do a lot more heavy lifting and things like that. So what you're doing is that, for example, let's use tenant debt for an example here, is the property associate might just be in charge of sending out reminder messages and printing out that list every day. The property manager is probably the one that picks up the telephone and rings them, talks to the tenants about their debt. And then the property manager executive probably contacts the owners or deals with escalated issues. So they're all working on the one task to a different degree, and the task goes back and forth between the three team members, so that if you pull one person out of that task because they're on leave, then the task continues. There's two other people that understands what that task is doing and where it's up to. So let's look at the benefits, which I've got on the left-hand side. It's much easier to recruit into this because the idea is you recruit into the bottom. You always recruit a property associate, and then you promote within your business. It's a lot easier to get unskilled staff and then mold them into your culture and your ways. It's easier to induct them. So there's already two people working in that portfolio, so you can slide a new team member in with very little impact to the portfolio and very little impact to your clients. So it makes it much more easier to transition people in and out of these types of squads. I've got here external training and sick leave and holiday cover. It's all the same thing, and we'll group it all in together. But basically, we've spoken to many portfolios, and we've done training as a company for many, many years. And one of the biggest excuses that property managers use for not going to training is they don't want to be away from the office and have to return to a stream of emails and missed calls. So what we're finding is that this particular structure really covers that efficiently. In fact, in one of the portfolios that we did as a case study, not the one I'm doing today, but a property manager actually took a month off. And then he came back to work and everything was looked after while he was away. The pod managed to continue on without missing a beat while that person was away. I'm not saying they didn't work hard, but you didn't have a person coming back to a mistreated portfolio. Efficient management. So again, if you were talking about 9 team members in an office, for example, as a business manager or a business owner, you may have 9 people reporting to you every day. And in property management, that's actually quite a lot of people. And it takes a lot of time to do that. So if you move everyone into this squad type structure, then suddenly you've reduced the number of people reporting to you down to 3. And that gives you much more time to start working on your business and start working on your business plan and the initiatives that you need to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish. Career progression. So this is one of the biggest sales pitches to this type of structure is property managers actually want a career. And this allows them to kind of learn from the bottom and progress through the business without having to bounce around to other businesses. But they can stay in yours and they can promote within the company itself and offer them a career path. Cultural alignment, keeping the culture right in your business is really, really important. You'll work hard on this. And putting new senior team members into the business can often ruin that for you. But also having everyone working on the same goals and pointing in the same direction naturally creates a much more aligned culture within the business. And the byproduct of that is obviously reducing staff churn, which is kind of what the data was talking about before. The key here is we want to reduce our staff churn. We want our staff to stay long term. This benefits them, it benefits the business, and it benefits our clients. So let's have a look at, we're going to use the portfolio structure here. So this is a typical portfolio structure where it has 6 property managers in it. So for the case study, we're actually going to modify it slightly. So in the case study we're going to use today, there are actually 4 property managers, a leasing officer and inspection officer, which are junior roles in this particular instance. Now, all those team members report directly to the business owner in this particular case study. So let's have a look at who all these people are. So this is who they are. So Shelley is actually, she's a mature person. She's been in property management for many years. However, she's actually starting a family and she doesn't want to return to work. She's made it very clear that she actually wants to become a mum. We've got Bill. Bill has also been around for a long time. However, Bill was kind of self-taught. He's not really a high performer and has never really had the experience of learning from somebody. And he does quite an adequate job, but I wouldn't say he was a high performer. We've got Jacob. Jacob is only young and he joined the business only a few years ago and has progressed quite quickly into a property manager's role and is actually doing really, really well for himself. We've got Sophie, who is, she's kind of a early 30s and she's quite dynamic as well. And she has been a property manager for quite some time. She's very knowledgeable in the business. You've got Liam, who's the leasing officer, and he's been with the business for about 12 months. And you've got Emma, who's also the inspections officer. Now, both these two are quite young, but have settled really well into the business. So what we're going to do is we're going to try, and part of this case study is how do we change this structure into our new squad structure? So that's what we're going to walk through now. So the first thing that we did was we sat down and we worked out, we had a meeting with all the team and we worked out what each of them, what their drivers, what their motivators were and what they wanted to achieve. Obviously, Shelley leaving was a big asset for us because that helped starting to manipulate the structure. So with that, what we had an opportunity was to recruit a new property manager to work under Jacob. So we'd agreed that we would promote Jacob into a PME role. Now, one of the things that I want to make very clear to you here is your existing property managers aren't automatically PME when you're rolling the structure out. They're all property managers. So you'll have to go through and find out which one of those are actually leaders and can step up into a property manager executive role, and which ones are actually just great property managers that probably should still remain a property manager. And there's a place for both of them in the business. So we allowed Jacob to actually recruit a new property manager, and that was Amanda. And I kind of left the A there just to remind you that she was the new person rather than put a photo. Jacob recruited Amanda. We gave him the job to do that because he was obviously going to be working with her. So that was the start of our first squad. So there was 2 people. So there doesn't have to be 3 people in these squads from day one. This particular squad only had 2 in it. Then what we had is we talked to Bill, and Bill may or may not have had a place in the business, and this is where we wanted to offer some flexibility in putting this together. Sophie, we believed, had the ability to be a property manager executive, so we gave her that, which she was very happy with. And then we had 2 things with Bill. We either transition him out of the business or we give him an opportunity to step up to the plate. Now, again, he's a mature property manager that's been doing it for a long time, and the old, teach an old dog new tricks scenario was kind of playing out here. So what we did is we put Bill in underneath Sophie, and we thought one of 2 things is going to happen here. Bill will probably not appreciate and leave, or Bill will step up to the plate and leverage off the mentor that he now has above him. And in this scenario, the good outcome actually played out, where Bill actually never really had a mentor before. And now, even though Sophie was much younger than him, he had someone to actually look up to and train him so he can improve and become more efficient at what he's doing. And Bill actually became, within a matter of months, a completely different property manager, which was really awesome for the business. Then what we've got down the bottom here is we've got 2 more roles to complete these squads. So these squads operated for a number of months like this, still with the leasing officer and the inspection officer playing around the edges and helping them out. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to complete the structure. So now the squad has a bit of momentum and they've settled in with each other. It was time to add the 3rd person in. So what we did is we spoke to Sophie and we spoke to Jacob, we spoke to Emma and we spoke to Liam. Now, both Emma and Liam wanted to move into becoming property managers, part of their career path. However, there's a big knowledge gap between being a leasing consultant or an inspection officer and moving into a property management role. And it's really hard to do. Jacob did it because he was a high performer and he managed to find his own path through there, but it's not always that easy for everyone. So there was a huge disjoint between how they were going to get a leasing officer into a property manager's role. And this solved that problem. So both of them agreed that they wanted to take on the role as property associates. We allowed Sophie and Jacob to pick which ones they wanted, and this is how it panned out. Jacob picked Liam and Sophie picked Emma. And then what we have now is our completed 2 squads. So we now have this in place. And this took probably about 6 months to pull off. So I just wanted to talk about now the the evolution of this structure with growth. So as the business grows, what you've got now is you have a very rigid but flexible structure. And that's the good thing about this, is having something that's so rigid that it's very hard to break, but completely flexible that you can manipulate it. So you see here, I've put a few arrows running around here, but the idea with this, that as the business grows, for example, if you needed a new property manager executive, you just promote a property manager up, you'd promote a property manager associate into the property manager's role, and you'd keep moving everyone from the bottom and recruiting into the bottom as the business grows. Now, if somebody for some strange reason left, now not everyone's going to stay forever. You know, Shelley's a perfect example of that. She wanted to go and start a family, and that's great. And we need how to work out how we fill those gaps. And it's the same thing. You start promoting up from the bottom and replacing those people with existing staff members and recruiting new property associates into the bottom. So that's how the evolution of growth would work on this. And that's how this becomes really quite dynamic, really flexible, but really rigid. As you're pulling and pushing people in and out of these squads, it has very, very little impact on the actual momentum of the squad itself. Right, let's go back and have a look at this. The slide we had at the start. Let's go back and review this one again and see if these things now resonate with you a little bit more. So as a high-performing team, obviously, we're looking at engagement and we're looking at staff longevity. Our customers, we're looking at better customer retention because of that. And as a business, we're going to probably grow from referrals, increase profitability, and we're becoming a business of choice, which frees up time for us to achieve our goals and become better at what we're doing. So for you, what's next? What is there to take away from this? So what I think you need to do is go back and review your current business structure and what you have today. This new structure, this squad structure, isn't going to work for everyone. So you need to go back and work out if it's going to work for you. Part of that process is you need to interview your team. If you're not already having one-on-ones with your team, can I suggest you do? So that's one takeaway for you. But find out what the team are planning. Do they plan on growing within your business? Do they want a career path? What's their next move? And see if that helps if you're wanting to transition into a squad structure. See if you can plan that out. The important thing about moving into a squad structure is you need to have a plan from day one, okay? And it may not work out how you want, but at least you can leverage around that and move people around. Okay, so start early. Don't wait until you need it. So one of the things a lot of people that I kind of pitch this structure to say to me, oh, we're only a small business and we don't need it now. This structure is a huge cultural change for the business. So you need to understand you need to be working on this from day one. So if there's only you in the business at the moment, I know we have a lot of small business owners here, but if there's only you in the business at the moment or there's only one or two staff members, then you need to start thinking about this structure. You don't want to get to 4 or 5 staff members and then go, crap, I need to move into the squad structure, because it's a huge cultural change for your business. And you may find you'll lose team members because they don't want to change like that or they don't want that type of structure. So it's very important to be upfront, start early, get it in place now so the structure grows with your business. That's all I've got for you today. I'm going to make sure that you all get access to a copy of these slides. The Building Blocks book, which was published by Ben White, is one of our books. It's available to you for free. I can send you a PDF on it, so my email is there. So anyone that sends me an email today, I will actually send you back a PDF copy of the Building Blocks book, which goes through in a lot more detail, these the frameworks that drive the high performance team. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you very much.